This is question 4 of my evaluation. How did you use media technologies in the construction and research, planning and evaluation stages? I did all of my research and planning on my Weebly blog. So that shows like everything that I've done, so anyone can go on my Weebly and look at all the planning and like analysing and research that's gone towards my final products. I've used GIFs on there to show costumes, props, mise-en-scène. I did both sides of my face on a GIF to show the makeup of the main character, what she'd be wearing. And when I did research on different fonts, I also did a GIF for that just to see which font would stand out the most if like it was flashing through, so you could like see which font caught your eye. So that was a good way of deciding what font to use for like a tagline and Matt said. I used YouTube quite a lot when analysing trailers and researching genres of trailers, just because obviously it gave me like shot ideas, and as the editor it gave me ideas on how to edit our trailer and how to like edit quickly and how to like use different effects on Photoshop as well to make it look as professional as I could, as I hadn't used Premiere Pro before until now. But with all the research I did on YouTube and all the like tutorials I've watched, I've learnt quite a bit. I've also used it to upload test shots and raw footage, even though we're not going to use them all. Just kind of shows the hard work we've put in and like how we've learnt from different shots, and it's like made us a bit more creative with our shots when we've seen like, oh, I don't like that after we've done a shot and we've done another one and thought it was really good. So we tried to show like how we've developed with our shots. At the beginning of the year, we did auditions for like the parts of in our trailer, which were uploaded to YouTube, and we also did interviews with like questions and answers on different genres to see which would be the most popular to do. And then I also uploaded our animatic storyboard to YouTube once we'd done that as well. I used Premiere Pro for the first time when we did our animatic storyboard, and it wasn't as complicated as I thought, but once you start doing your actual trailer and you realise how much more shots you need and how much more editing you need to make it look really good, it is a lot of work and it's quite hard to get your head around, but once you've done it, like, I think it just looks really good. So in Premiere Pro for our trailer, I was adding clips and editing them with like the razor tool. I added fades onto like the company logos and production logos. I watched tutorials on YouTube of how to do glitches at the end when she's like, it's like the camera's breaking on her vlogs and it's glitching, so she's like stuttering and repeating what she says. And I've done it so the colour fades. And then it like goes all a bit fuzzy, so like the camera's died, which I thought was a really cool effect. I've added title pages and adjustment pages, which I did the editing on, which I learnt from a tutorial, so you're not actually like ruining the clip that you've got, you're like editing over it so it doesn't change the entire clip that you've already like recorded. I use Photoshop a lot as well, for my poster, magazine and company and production logos. Like for my poster, I edited 3 images and I went from a portrait one that was quite simple and not that effective to me then doing further research on like which you can see on my Weebly, and now I've done it at landscape. So I added 3 images of a camera, the main character and my friend's eye to make it look like someone was watching her through the lens, which I thought was really effective. So I added a lens flare. I had to concentrate on the font quite a bit to see what I'd fit around the image, because the image was quite powerful and overtaking of the whole thing, which I wanted, but I also wanted the title of the film to stand out. Focused on colour because I was going to go for a deep red, but because I used so much gradient and like I wanted the image to be quite dark with all the contrast and stuff, I had to brighten the red up a bit just so that you could see it more clearly and read it better. I used the eraser to erase around like Georgia so she'd fit inside the camera and then the camera in the eye, so it'd all fit and look like it was part of the eye. I used the lasso tool to cut out the camera, cut out Georgia, but I also used the quick selection tool for like trickier parts. And then for the actual lens, just to perfect it as like a round shape to fit into the eye, I used the elliptical Marquee tool. I also use like drop shadows just to make it effective, and I did a lot of work with the clone stamp tool to recreate Jamie's eyelashes, so they could go over the shadow, and so the ones on top as well, you could see them like more clearly, but also them fading into the gradient. So like I thought that was really effective. And then I used transform and skew to make Georgia look like she's actually in the camera, so it looks like she's a bit of a sphere, like kind of 3D effect, like she's inside the lens. For my magazine, I did an establishing shot of the college, and just like I lowered the opacity of it, used contrast and brightness, and then added like more blue tones in the hue and saturation, just to give it like more of a deep thriller kind of feel, like make it a bit more eerie. I used the lasso tool and the quick selection tool for cutting Georgia out and putting her on there just so she was like perfectly cut out, but at the same time I used the clone tool just so she didn't look like she was like stuck on the front. So like I made it like a hood a bit more fluffy rather than really sharp and edges like cut out, and same for her hair, just so it looked like it all flowed together really nicely and looked good. I use the shape tool quite a lot on my magazine for the plus, like when it's like an exclusive feature. And I also did a lot of rectangles because when I researched the Empire magazine, which I've used for a lot of my inspiration, they did like sections with rectangles and shapes just to kind of like separate each section and make it look really professional and organised. I used drop shadow just because I feel like that's really good for the thriller genre because it's really effective. And I used the colour fill and opacity for the suspect shadow because when I first put it on, it was one of the suspects, but obviously it's a mystery and you could kind of tell who it was. And I just didn't want it overpowering Georgia either, so I thought I'd make it more effective and make it into an actual like shadow in the background so you can like vaguely see it, but I feel like it just adds something a bit extra. I also added a gradient to the bottom just so like, because otherwise his body just kind of stuck on the middle, so I wanted it to like blend all in, which also meant I could make the text like brighter to read rather than it being white text on a bit of a grey blue background. It was like white text on a like, well, opacity white text on a like black background, so it's really clear. And then just to get the colour perfect to match like each element, so I wasn't using too many, I used the eyedropper tool. For my font, I did a lot of research on font, as you'll see on my blog, with like it through the GIFs and all sorts. And there, I used Dafont. I've used Lemon Milk for my masthead and title, and Moonflower for my tagline. I also got Steel Tongs off there because obviously Steel Tongs is used from like pretty much every element for any film ever, just for like the production parts at the bottom and stuff. My social media was used quite a lot for audience feedback and research, like Facebook, Snapchat, WhatsApp. I was constantly posting pictures, sending pictures, just asking what was good about it, what was bad, what they like thought I could change, what'd be better. I mainly got positive feedback back, but obviously there's always room for improvement, so I did change a few things. And I was lucky enough to get a graphic designer to give me feedback on WhatsApp, which was really helpful as well. But the internet in general, like I used a lot, so like I did research on IMDb, just to see like what kind of thrillers are most popular, age ratings, things like that, like important elements to do with the film. I also used SurveyMonkey to get audience research feedback through like questionnaires. I mainly use this in the beginning, say like what your favourite genre was, what your favourite film is, characters, like what you'd expect to see them wearing, how you'd expect them to act, and all those kind of aspects. Then I also used it for when deciding the masthead, just because I think I picked 2 for my magazine and then I couldn't decide, so I thought, well, I'll let the people who would actually be seeing it and giving me a review on it decide instead. Obviously I used a DSLR camera to shoot all of our trailer and take all the pictures for the posters and magazines and stuff. So I also had to use a tripod with that most of the time to keep the camera at a steady angle. Unless like we did a moving shot like from Georgia's point of view where she's going through the alleyway, which is obviously handheld, but a lot of shots were taken on the tripod. I've used my phone quite a lot, like I'm using it now to record podcasts and my evaluations, which is easy because you can carry it around, you can do it wherever you want, it's easy to use. I was going to use a H4 microphone, which it just makes things a bit more complicated, where I might as well do it on my phone, as it's more of an updated technology anyway. We're going to use GarageBand for our soundtrack. So Georgia's the one doing sound, so she's done research on YouTube of different music and soundtracks behind thrillers and things like that. So she was experimenting with those quite a lot. So she's done the sound for us. I've used Prezi for my target audience research and publication plan, just because it's an updated version of PowerPoint, which I've used as well, but it just looks more interesting and neater. I feel like it just shows off your skills a little bit more, because it's not as easy to use as PowerPoint, but I do really like it. And I also use eMaze to review my target audience and for when I was creating my treatment, just because it's kind of similar to Prezi, but again it's just a little bit better than PowerPoint. I used iShowU a couple of times to do screen recordings of me editing my poster and magazine. Also I did some at home to show what I've done on my blog so far. Just because it's fair enough having podcasts and stuff, but it's easier to have visuals sometimes when you want to show people your work. And finally, I use quite simple documents like Word for audition posters that I put up around the college, just because it was probably the easiest way to do it quickly and efficiently, just to kind of get the trailer moving on a bit, because we've started filming quite early, and I think that helped. And I also used PowerPoint for mass ed research, as I did mini collages at the beginning, just to see what I thought looked better in different fonts and what I thought sounded better and things like that.